I've been asked by different people to give my opinion about vaccination in the children. And you see, the question of vaccination is tackled in two ways. The one is question of vaccination plus legality. Plus legality. What is legal and what is not legal in a country. So I always don't want to take this question only without the legal aspect of that. So you have also to take the legal aspect of the country into consideration. If certain vaccinations are compulsory in your country, I don't think you can dispense with them.
Yes, you don't have to.
No legal?
Not in England.
Not in England?
No.
Okay then. I will not talk. I will not talk about it. Now
If you decide to travel, it's still not compulsory. If it is to get into the country, no.
People have the power to much freedom.
It's only practical.
quite.
It's only in fact practical. Legally you can get around it, but just
There is no problem. If you, as a doctor, advise a person not to be vaccinated, you are not legally involved? No. Okay. That's great. Now I'll give you the answers. First of all, vaccinations. What are vaccinations? Vaccinations are products of the disease itself, which are given to create immune resistance, to create antibodies, so they can fight with the nosological agent where the body will come into contact with that. Therefore, they are referred to what we call the immune system. The immune system. And I believe that there is a deep interference. For every immunization we take, there is a deep interference in the immune system of our body, with a consequence which we do not know exactly. We do not know neither in depth nor in time how deep it goes and how long it lasts. This change, I will not still say disturbance of the immune system, we do not know. So it is an unknown question, really. The second thing is that in order for a person to fall sick under a nosological agent, has to be on a certain level of state of health, on a certain level of state of health. See, that level, A, B, C, E, etc., D. A person will fall sick if he is within that level. Will fall sick with smallpox if he is on that level. I believe that the Western world has, let us say, this is the level of smallpox. One, if he's in that level, he gets smallpox, and this is a level. Say the third level. From this is very good health, then it is the third level from good health, and this is a worse level, and that is a worse level. Going take the other way, going downwards. You see, this is the worst level. This is the best level, and this is less better, and less better. Whatever way you take it, you have to be on that level as in a state of health in order to get smallpox. Otherwise you cannot get. If you are here, if you are too well, if you are here, you are too sick for that state. I believe that the humanity as a whole now in Western world has come down a level from that state of smallpox level, has come down and cannot contract. They cannot contract smallpox, even if we want it. Why? Because we are more sick. We are on a level which is more sick as a general state of health and cannot contract smallpox. And that's why, to my understanding, smallpox is disappearing. Also, it's disappearing because of precautions, of hygienic precautions that we take. Also, the immunization through smallpox is one of the reasons why the health has been degraded, like all the other immunizations that we take, because of the interference of the immune system. The immune system has changed drastically due to immunizations, and also we interfere too much. The children take 6 different immunizations now, interfering all the time with the immune system of the child, with as a result to have today what's called the chronic diseases, especially the rising of the systemic diseases, the diseases like lupus erythematosus, like rheumatoid arthritis, like psoriasis. Such kinds of diseases are much more spread now than they used to be. And I believe are diseases which we call the collagen diseases, which are due to the disturbance of the immune system. How this disturbance of the immune system came about? Mostly because of immunization. Therefore, when the question of immunization comes, it is on what state of health the boy is in order to be protected by immunization. If he is in a bad state of health, we don't even worry about immunizations. You will never get an acute infectious disease if he is in a very bad state of health. But in a good state of health, a child have the possibility of contracting this. That means the parents have been going through homeopathy. They bear a child which is quite healthy, has the possibility of getting smallpox, of getting diphtheria again, getting what else? Tetanus, getting what they immunize, and also the Salk, the vaccination, the polio vaccination, poliomyelitis also. So it is a fact that through the immunizations they have eliminated, especially polio, which I think it's they have eliminated, they have brought quite down the level of poliomyelitis. But at the same time, the polio vaccination, I have seen personally quite a few cases that have been destroyed. Children have been destroyed by polio vaccination. Yes?
There's strong statistical evidence which I studied to show that the polio vaccines had no effect on the decrease of polio. In fact, the graph was already on a steep decline before the Salk vaccine was...
Yes, that is the theory also. But the fact remains that it has declined. And we may accept it, that it is because of polio. But the question is, what is the percentage that polio vaccination has brought about as disorder in the children? It's quite quite a lot, and quite severe sometimes. And we have severe mental disorders starting from polio vaccination. So what I reason out is the children who with polio vaccination bring about a tremendous reaction, and they are sick, becoming sick in a kind of epidemic, would be the first to get it, and most probably it would be fatal for them. there is a predisposition, tremendous predisposition, they will be ready to get it. But by giving the vaccination, you destroy them in any case, in advance, not knowing whether the polio epidemic will come or not. Maybe it will not come in a lifetime, and they will not be destroyed. So one has to study very well the statistics, and also statistics which are real statistics, because, as you know, those that have worked in research, they can present anything. I mean, a researcher can present anything he likes. I have seen from a big hospital of Athens a work sent to an international congress with the conclusions of the research. And the doctor who was working with this, he said, but we have not started the research yet. How do we know the conclusions? He says, no, it's okay, you write it this way, and you send it, because they had to send in time for the international congress, they have to send in time the research. I mean, that kind of research and that kind of statistics are not reliable. So when we see a reaction from a vaccine, a big reaction, it means that the child is very sensitive towards that particular nosological agent and is going to be sick during the epidemic. Now, if it was my own child, now what are you going to do? You know that certain children have predisposition to polio, certain have great predisposition to tetanus, certain that have predisposition to diphtheria. What are you going to do as a practical advice? Shall we vaccinate them? Shall we take the chance of having a big reaction, and that big reaction can bring about many times encephalomyelitis, other times can bring about renal destruction, the kidneys. They bring about nephritis, and many times they bring about neurological disorders. So what are you going to do? You know that this child, you do not know, but once you give it, the child was very sensitive. Where the question is, are you going to wait for the epidemic and see what happens? If it was my child, I would say, okay, it's better if I keep the child intact without immunizations and face it with homeopathy. What we have observed in Athens, for instance, because everybody is free to do whatever he likes. I'm not going to interfere with the children of somebody else. I give my ideas, and each one has to decide. So certain doctors decide, oh no, we shall have the polio vaccination, say, only. Now what we have observed is a child that was healthy and was going very fine until the age of 1.5 or 2 years old. He gets the vaccination, and from that time onwards there is a battle to bring back that child's health. There is a battle, it's colds, bronchitis, again bronchitis, the child is, where he was quiet, he starts being, and then you battle, and then you feel that there is no progress made. And eventually I reason out, I say, if we bring that child back into balance, isn't he going to have the same predisposition as before? That means what we did is we counteracted the effect on the immune system. We brought back the same situation as before the vaccination. That is what we did, because it was the immune system that was disturbed. As a result, more colds, more bronchitis. The child does not develop more neurological disorders, more this, more that. I had a case, you know, rich people also, they will not listen, you know, they want protection. And 2 of these cases I have seen where they asked me to treat. The child says, wakes up in the night and screams. Suddenly the child screams. Cry, you know, it just brings the chills. understand? You know, I know the child. I have treated the child. No, it was normal. It just screams. Yes, every night screams and has become irritable and does not know what is wrong with the child, etc. And then I have been able in both times to say, have you vaccinated the child 1 month ago? He said, yes. By polio? Yes. He said, this is the reason why. Now you treat the child and comes back to the state, you know. But isn't really coming back to where he was before vaccination? Then what? There is no protection anymore. To my understanding. I cannot prove it because after immunization we have to measure the immune system, you know, the different parameters in the immune system, then treat the child, then measure again, see they are coming back, etc. But these are logical conclusions to which I have arrived. Therefore, when you treat, you give a vaccination, and then you have a disturbance in the health. If you don't have any disturbance in the health, no effect at all of the vaccination. That means the child is not at all sensitive to that particular nosological agent. If he is not, then the time of the epidemic will not fall sick, that child. That child will be exempt because he is not sensitive at all. So if you give a vaccination and there is no effect at all, the child continues with the same state of health. That means the vaccination has not taken. That means there is no change in the immune system. The immune system did not respond at all to that agent. Ignore him completely. You know, because there is no sensitivity at all. But once there is a sensitivity, there is a possibility to get it. But then you decide, you leave that person disturbed or you treat. If you treat, you bring back the sensitivity. But you see, intellectually you may feel that, oh, it has been protected, the child, because it was vaccinated. I don't think, when there is an epidemic, I think these children, they will fall sick with the epidemic. So in a very quick manner, there's more analysis into that subject, but it will take too long to analyze it now. I'll just give you general ideas, my general thoughts. Yes?
When you think in treatment to get back to health,
Yes?
you've actually maybe stimulated and repaired the immune system where it might have been damaged for genetic reasons because of previous vaccinations. You might have actually cured the problem of vulnerability to that disease.
Oh, I did not follow your question.
They gave them polio vaccination, they went down.
Yes.
You treat them to cure them.
Yes.
You bring them back to a good level of health.
Yes.
Might it not be that the vulnerability to polio
Yes.
has then gone because that was what was in the system from birth, and by having to get them back to health, you've cured the basic weakness?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. And I would not tend to feel so. I would not tend to feel so. Also, another thing I wanted to tell you is that, yes, when you have the possibility of good homeopathic treatment, you may rely on that possibility as well, you see, in case the child gets really sick, gets the epidemic. So there is a kind of safety from that point of view, that if the child gets sick, you have a means to treat the child, which is quite effective. Now, the other ideas of protecting through homeopathic potentized remedies, I do not see the logic behind. You know, they say take Thuya 30 for when, etc. I do not see the logic. The logic here is when the immune system it has a predisposition towards that disease, it will get it. If the immune system now, in order to protect itself, it has to be disturbed. Now, if you can't disturb it with homeopathic medicine, I do not know. Maybe you can if you give it too much, etc. But then you make the person sick in order to protect. In order to protect from polio, you make these little ones, you make them sick, so they are protected, as long as they are sick. They are protected as long as they are sick. Once they stop being sick, then they have the predisposition again. You see, and I'm sure real statistics will show, for instance, that the person has been vaccinated. This child has been vaccinated, and still he got it. And he did not have homeopathic treatment. Why? Because the system by itself came back to that original state. That means through the reaction, throughout the effect of the vaccination, and returned to a normal state. It didn't remain sick. Therefore, he will get it. You see, he reacted and came back to the normal state. That means in spite of being vaccinated, he will get it. There was an experiment in India while I was there. I do not know how much, because I have not read the experiment. I have been told by one of the professors in the school that in a particular town in India, they vaccinated half of the population and half remained unvaccinated. And they have smallpox vaccination that I had quite frequently. The smallpox came and affected the same percentage for people who were vaccinated and from people who were not vaccinated. I do not know whether it's true because I have not read this work. I just heard it from one of the professors in the school. I don't think that this also is so. The percentage must be less, because the people who remain sick after vaccination must be quite a percentage. But then you have the after effects of vaccination, which can be fatal, from fatal to very bad. And you have the possibility, the moment that you vaccinate a child, you have the possibility at any moment to happen that. Of course, again we have the possibility of homeopathy, so when it starts this reaction, you help it by homeopathic remedies. But you see, it's not a simple issue. I discussed this issue with WHO people. You know, these WHO people, they are in favor of vaccination, of course, very much. They believe that smallpox has been wiped out because of their effort to distribute smallpox vaccination, and smallpox is wiped out the last 10 years. And they feel that this is their accomplishment. So I discussed it with them very slightly, of course, because I know this is a sensitive issue. And all right, he says, they accept the after effects, the side effects. And they say, well, still the deaths which are happening with polio or with smallpox are not as many as with the vaccinations. The vaccinations give less casualties than the epidemic. So therefore we're still better off. I don't believe we are still better off. Why? Because to my understanding, the multiple sclerosis case, which has come about very strongly the last 20, 30 years, most probably is due to some kinds of vaccinations. One day they are going to discover. And this is measles vaccination or polio vaccination or around there. It must have been. And I wanted actually to do a research, which we never managed to finish that research with the American doctors, where we prove that countries that had never had vaccinations had no multiple sclerosis incidents. Where, for instance, Israel is one of the countries that has one of the highest percentages of multiple sclerosis. And there was a geographical kind of explanation. They said geographically, you know, these areas they get more. That's nonsense for me. Israel has a lot of these incidents because there are people living there that have come most probably from Europe and America, where vaccinations were going on all around. The Iraqis, which are next to them, and the Jordanians, they are next to them. Multiple sclerosis, nil. Where it's in Israel is I think 0.9%. That means 1 in 110. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure of the figure, but it's a tremendous figure. Why it is there, and then the Iraqis, because the Iraqis never had vaccination, of course. Now they vaccinate them to protect them. Okay, in 10 years or 15 or 20 years' time, multiple sclerosis will be 1 in 200. Where this was found? Oh, we don't know the effect of civilization. Of course, civilization of that time, because nobody thinks about this. I do not say at this moment, okay, can you take this possibility to say out vaccination? No, I cannot. But what I say is be aware of what we are doing. The BCG, you know the BCG? The BCG? The BCG vaccination for tuberculosis, for me, brought about the rheumatoid arthritis cases to a tremendous degree. Because I know of experiments, I have read of experiments where they have given BCG to animals and produced a typical state of rheumatoid arthritis. And rheumatoid arthritis has soared up after the Second World War. Why? Because somebody has disturbed very deeply the human defenses, and we have serious disorders today which we suffer and we have inflicted upon ourselves in our effort to counteract diseases. Yes?
The implication of what you say is that we can use some of these vaccines in a miasmatic way, in the way you described yesterday.
Sure.
But could we not also start a program approving home-sized vaccines? See if the effects have any relation to the systemic diseases you mentioned.
Yeah, we can do that, sure. But also we may use sometimes the polio vaccine in potentized form in cases where we see from polio and we don't know what's going on. We may, sure.
In India, they did quite a large statistical study with BCG. I think they did 600. And there was more TB in the people who were given the BCG than in those who were given nothing at all.
Maybe, yes. They made them sensitive to tuberculosis eventually. They gave the predisposition. Yes.
I had a lady come to me a few months ago who had multiple sclerosis.
Yes.
Not very badly.
Yes.
She'd had hay fever very badly for several years.
Yes.
Then she had a series of injections, and it suppressed the hay fever. The hay fever disappeared, and then the multiple sclerosis started a few months after that.
Yeah. And most probably she was treated with the anti-allergic drugs for hay fever.
It started after the injection, series of injections.
Do you know where it was allergy injection kind of?
I don't know.
You don't know. Yeah. Hmm? What?
She had a series of injections that was almost certainly desensitizing injury.
Yes, yeah. Yes?
The problem with the polio vaccine is the one that always worries me more because it's a live virus. So the other children get infected from the virus is one thing. And also because of the fact that the later you get the polio in life, the more liable you are to get paralysis. So when I'm talking to parents about it, I always have trouble with that because you say to them, oh, you know, it's better they get the polio when they're young than when they're older, but the older children who haven't had vaccination can get it from the young kids who have been vaccinated, and that's when it might be dangerous.
Also, we have to know exactly what is the possibility of a child getting polio at this moment. I do not know the statistics. whether there is a real polio. Have you seen in your hospitals?
There's only 4 cases
Huh?
in the last 2 years.
The last?
2 or 3 years, I think there's only 4 cases.
Has any of the doctors who are here seen in hospitals? No.
2 of those cases were adults who actually caught it from their children who hadn't been vaccinated.
Who had?
They had the adults had not been vaccinated.
Yes.
The children had recently had the vaccination, and they caught polio from them. Well, they caught vaccinosis. They didn't. I wouldn't think they would have the paralytic type syndrome, but they caught some symptoms of polio.
So, okay.
Before you wrap it up, there's a question that is always asked.
Yes.
Which is the question of homeopathic prophylaxis by the use of open-tight-nosons. Would you like to comment?
I said I do not see how a homeopathic potentized remedy can protect really unless it disturbs. Either it has to disturb the immune system really and deeply, or it does not protect. It is like placebo effect, as we say. The people think they are protected, but I do not see how they can be protected unless they are really disturbed. If you make them sick, you can change them that level, you know, from here, you bring them down with a homeopathic remedy or with an immune, whatever it is, but you bring them down so they cannot get it anymore. Yes?
How many nations in the organ the belladonna being given in the scarlatina epidemic? Do you think that he just ignored that degeneration of health, or do you think?
I believe that belladonna will be indicated, will be indicated. And belladonna can be indicated from the first moment that the person gets the measles to the scarlet fever to the end of the scarlet fever. In the beginning, what you have? Nothing, no symptoms. Incubation period, you know, that takes no symptomatology. Yet if you give belladonna, because belladonna is still, it's indicated in the process is inside there. It's going to develop. We have very mild symptoms which we cannot see. You give belladonna in the very beginning and it will take away the major impact of scarlatina in that child. And will go through an easy scarlatina case. Some cases will not be belladonna. And then, in spite of your giving belladonna very early in the case, they will develop into a bad case of pulsatilla, or calcarea carbonica, or thuya, or apis, or whatever it is. But definitely, because of the symptom picture, belladonna will be indicated in many cases. You give it, and it will protect, in a way, bringing down the intensity of the whole thing, because it's like treating them. They have the symptoms. You give it, they go through easily. That's the idea. That's the idea, yes. But just to give it and to say, I'm protecting everybody with belladonna, no, I don't accept that.
So it's not a prophylactic?
It's not, no. It's a curative, yes.
What do you think are the possibilities of treating someone who has got polio or one of the other serious diseases?
I think we can treat, definitely, if we have the courage and we have the legal situation in which we can do it.
And you feel it would respond well?
I feel that if we give the right remedy, they will respond much better than any kind of antibiotics, definitely. There is no, and I'm going to give this case of encephalomyelitis, which we had one of our doctors had his child with encephalomyelitis, took him to the hospital, took a lumbar puncture, and examined the spinal fluid, and they have diagnosed it in the hospital and did well in 24 hours. The child recovered. I don't think they could have done it with any kind of antibiotic.
had a case once of a lady who was...
The child was almost in semi-unconscious, you know. Yes?
I had a case once of a lady who had lost the use of her right arm, from the elbow downwards, at the age of 19.
Yes.
At the age of about 50, with other things. And I gave her polio combination of all the viruses, 1M, and she regained the use of the arm after.
Yes? That's interesting. It's a pity that it was a combination there. How many vaccinations?
No, she'd had the actual disease.
No. You say you gave a polio 1M, but it was a combination of
all the polio viruses.
Oh, polio viruses. Oh, only polio viruses. Oh, not other vaccinations. Ah, I see. Yes?
What I understand about the polio illness seems to be that used ambiguously by different people, because from what I've read is that it's actually a very common virus, and that most of us have had it, and only about 10% or less than 90% of cases produce a sort of flu-like condition, possibly diarrhea, and that only about 10% of the cases produce any paralysis, so that most of us have probably had it and are immune to it. And you know, the cases that Richard was quoting would in fact have been paralytic cases, because those are the only ones that are reported and statistically taken note of.
Yeah, but that was in 50 years ago, 40 years ago.
No, Richard was quoting say 3 or 4 cases.
Yeah.
So, I think people do worry much more about polio than the incidence of the illness as a paralytic illness or illness. It's only that particular susceptibility at the time that makes it so severe.
I think these decisions have to be taken on high level, on a kind of governmental level. And one time, perhaps sometimes, those people responsible for such actions upon the human body, massive action upon the human bodies, should come around and discuss more seriously, having all the real information of what is really happening, and discuss it more seriously and take decisions. It's not a matter that we can decide, actually, what. I'm just giving you information, but I cannot sustain my information with some research that should have been done to see whether things are like that as we maintain they are. You know, they should say to us, okay, you have these ideas, you come, okay, we have some research, we do, and see what happens. Have a person vaccinated, take his immune system, examine it, then give homeopathic treatment. See if it recovers the system. Then somebody else does not give. See how long it takes to recover. The whole thing is now on a level which is not, I don't feel it's scientific level, you know. They say the government says, you are obliged. In our country it's obligatory. I hear the first time that it's not obligatory. I think most of the countries is obligatory. So in our country you cannot say to somebody, don't get vaccinated, because you are in legal trouble if you say so.
In Southeast Asia, I won't say which country, the Prime Minister's son contracted polio after vaccination, and in a month it was completely banned, and it has been ever since.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, you're very kind.
Okay, in England, you can or you can't, but I know things I read. There's a massive campaign to get GPs to immunise their patients. And it's always in every magazine, you know, every week there's articles, get your child immunised, give them half, whatever.
So in England they pay something like £7 a shot. If somebody comes in with a cut, they get £7 extra if they give them a tetanus jab. And so they usually say to your mother, have you had yours recently? And they get an extra £7 for doing that too.
They're working hard for their Rolls Royces.
It's one of the biggest growth areas in the drug industry since the war.
They put a lot of emotional pressure.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I mean is it's very difficult for us when someone comes in for advice to go against the GP's advice. It makes it very puts me in a very awkward situation.
Yeah. And also what Willie says, the whole population is put in such a pressure emotionally. You see, am I going to leave my child unprotected? You see, this is the question. That's why I say this problem has to be solved on governmental level. Okay, what do we do then? We find solutions, but as long as we know what we are doing really, not thinking, oh, protecting the people, it's so wonderful. I mean, these are romantic ideas.
I had a letter from the local health authority threatening me to say that my daughter was going to be the cause of a rubella epidemic, and that it was on my head if this happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
One of the major problems is totally false statistics. I mean, it would be possible to show by a statistical study that smallpox has disappeared in the world since television was introduced. Therefore, television prevented white smallpox.
Might be true, you know, because children, they don't get it with each other, they get to their own homes, they look television, so they...
In statistics, they have a phenomenon called sculpting the data.
Sculpting, yes.
You leave some things out and you add a few bits on.
Yes. It looks quite a different shape. Exactly. Exactly. I told you that phenomenon. I mean, I couldn't believe when I was told that the conclusions were drawn before the starting of the experiment. They said, we don't have time for the experiment. And then these things will go to the magazines and we'll read it and we'll say the statistics say so and so, you know, that people who get this, they have this effect, etc.